It happens again. James Harden, in his first game back after his rather disappointing antics as a Houston Rockets, went viral for all the wrong reasons. So what's the deal with this picture? What's up, y'all? I'm KidKame11. In order to understand why this is a big deal, but not a big deal at all, we're gonna have to go back. But before we get into any of that, I want to thank the 3 guys in the comment section of the last video for letting me know that Zaire Smith was signed by the Memphis Grizzlies. Looks like I spoke too soon. They apparently went ahead and waived him. For those of you who haven't watched the previous video, it's about Zaire Smith, the 2018 lottery pick that almost died, came back to the NBA after taking a year off of not playing anything, and then was waived by the Detroit Pistons. It's an interesting story, so make sure you go check that out after this. But anyway, for what y'all guys came here for, James Harden has been getting flamed, roasted, and all of the above for this picture. Alright, I'm not even gonna lie, this looks that John looks horrible. It looks like, you know, he hasn't touched the ball in about 6 years. He's like, yeah, man, let me get that ball real quick. Let me just put a whole shot. Let me show you how we used to do in the old times. You know, that man's got a dad bod, all right? Now, we've been through this rodeo a couple times before. We've already seen James Harden, his infamous free throw. I believe that was during the bubble or something like that. And in previous times as well, in 2018 and also in 2015. There are times when James Harden just looks a little bit more, you know, round than the average NBA player, particularly an average NBA superstar. Every time it comes back to him in some way, particularly after his Arizona sighting where he looked almost as skinny as I did, honestly. So James Harden's body is unique, but just because he put on a couple of pounds doesn't necessarily mean anything, in my opinion. But the unique thing about his body, no matter how big or skinny or anything it gets, he's still lethally effective. In fact, no matter how out of shape he is, he could still easily put up 25 in the NBA, at least, probably even 30, his normal self. There isn't anything to worry about with James Harden being that bloated, even though it's solely because of the camera angle. There's a lot of discrepancies. For some reason, James Harden just doesn't have any luck with that top sort of angle that's sort of coming down on him. It doesn't really work well for him. While he definitely did put on a few pounds, you couldn't tell at all. And honestly, James Harden's playstyle isn't necessarily stamina based. In fact, ever since he's been a Houston Rocket, he's been one of the top 5 slowest players in the NBA, very oftentimes the slowest. In the previous 2020 season, he was the slowest player on offense and on defense. And that's something you can very much tell throughout the preseason game against the Spurs. He acted like normal, and it didn't require a lot of stamina, I promise you. The only time that his weight potentially showed was at the end of the 3rd quarter when he was getting a little bit of a breather on the courts. So why are we getting a video on James Harden's weight, KidKame? And that's a very good question. It always seems that James Harden is always in the news for something negative. While this last time was definitely warranted, him being with Lil Baby and giving him $500,000 worth of stuff, even though he's already a millionaire.
Proud of bad because he's proud of me. Full of honey buns.
And going to the, you know, the club and everything to go party, right? That was definitely something that was reprehensible. But if you look in the pattern of popular basketball culture regarding James Harden, it's nearly always negative. Despite the fact that he led the 2018 Rockets to a Game 7 against the greatest team of all time, people often consider him a playoff choker. Despite the fact that he's been one of the best post defenders in the league for the past 2 or 3, 4, maybe even seasons, there are still people who think that he is a bad defender, and it was something that really prevailed even though he had already changed that stigma. Now it looks like the next trend is James Harden getting a little bit more chubby than the average person. So every connotation of James Harden in the popular basketball culture is negative, right? If we go back to his weight, did any of you guys notice how strong he actually looked? Did any of you guys notice how big his arms looked like they got? Did anyone notice how strong his base looked? Or how he didn't lose a step of speed? But that was never talked about. What was talked about was one picture from one angle, whereas the only place that you could tell that James Harden had changed in any significant way, particularly in a bad one, they got him at a very, very bad angle. Going back to all of the minutes that James Harden played, all the times he was on screen during that preseason game, there wasn't anything as revealing as that initial shoot-around photo. So what's wrong with that photo? What's wrong with it, in my opinion, is that it's another thing to negatively stereotype James Harden. It's something else to push the narrative, push the ball, continue the ball to roll that he doesn't want to play in Houston, so therefore he got himself fat. It's really interesting how the NBA basketball landscape works. The fact that you can take a few little pieces of someone's career and spin a tale that's entirely different of what it actually is, I don't know if that's dangerous, but it's definitely powerful. James, I know you're okay. James, I know you're okay, man. I know you're good. As a Houston Rockets fan, I want you gone. I'm not even gonna lie to you. That new article today on ESPN told me what exactly all I needed to know. I want you gone. But people are very, very unfair to you, man. I would say it's a little bit tragic, but I don't care no more, man. James, look. I got James Harden braids, right? If you're still at the end of the video, listen. I got James Harden braids to look like James Harden. That means you have to like the video. Look, come on. Those are two, they're not correlated at all, but you gotta like the video. And stay tuned for the next video. I promise you it's gonna be a bang. See y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching.